my name is DanielaLeo, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how Monterrey has shaped the way I am. So, this is the city where I live. It's called Monterrey because it's surrounded by mountains. It is a really square city in the sense that people are really square minded. So, everything is influenced directly by society or by your customs or your traditions, or even your family name has a really big role in how people see you. It's a really dirty city, it's really polluted since it's really industrial. And the landscape, as you can see, for example, everything in the city surrounds the mountains. So it is really gray. You can see a lot of industrial things. However, there are parts of the city that have more color. For example, this is what we call Barrio Antiguo, and it is in the center of the city and it's really colorful. There are really old vintage stores and stuff like that. Also, for example, here you can find some of the best typical foods of the city. You can find what is called cabrito. You can find traditional candy. You can find live music. However, the traditional music here, it's a little bit like polka. So, and for example, in the yeah, according to clothing, we dress like United States, if you can say it like that. We relate to them a lot like that. However, this is the typical costume of here of Monterrey, and it is mostly used when doing typical dances or in events that involve culture, like Dia de Muertos, or the anniversary of the city, or displays of the dance. However, I personally, some a really big factor that has shaped the way I have seen things and how I feel is street art. And for example, I really love this guy that is called Disaster, and he really makes expression about how everything is a mess regarding the city, the environmental impact that the city has. And well, he has a really rude things in some of his art, for example, as you can see here. However, the all of his art tends to lead a message, and that is something that I really like. For example, I really like this piece that he has, and he's talking about the time that here in Monterrey we had a really big drought and we didn't have enough water for everyone, and people had their waters cut off, and they were really struggling to even find water to drink. So this is a collage and some art piece that he did, and he sold in t-shirts, and that is a statue of Tlaloc that is found in Mexico City. However, he incorporated it because in Mayan mythology, Tlaloc is the god of rains and water and stuff like that. Of these things, this is the one of the things that I have pulled from the city and from everything that is happening that has shaped the way I behave, the way I think, and the way I express myself. I really like to use these kinds of things to show a little bit of my personality. And I think that everyone that lives here in Monterrey tends to take little pieces of the city and incorporate them into their personalities. And I think that is really cool because here in Monterrey that happens, but sometimes maybe in other parts of Mexico, people tend to take things, for example, gastronomy, where it is more in places where gastronomy is more important than the industry, for example, here, and there they tend to make personalities out of either desserts or typical foods, etc. Or even some places where tourism is really important, they make their personalities out of it. And I think that is really cool as well. So if we go back to this, we can see that the aesthetic of our city really varies. This is at the nighttime, for example, and it has a really big nightlife. So there are a lot of colors during the night, but it is really gray during the day. So I think that it really represents the culture here in Monterrey of how we tend to work a lot, but when we like to take time to be with our loved ones, we really like to go big or go home. The things that we can have physically of culture are all in Barrio Antiguo, like I said before, and they are mostly seen in architecture. So this is Palacio de Gobierno, and this is where the the governor lives. Oh, well, it's his office, and all of the surrounding areas have really colonial buildings, and they have really interesting stories. And actually, there are many tours that can tell you, like, oh, okay, this has been since the first few years of the city. We are now over 100 years old. The whole city is over 100 years old. So this has aged during the years with us, and it is a really living part of the history and the culture that came before us in this city. And in the end, Monterrey is a place where you can find people from many social status. For example, you can have middle classes, you can have low classes, high classes, and the difference are really are really visible. However, we all tend to get together and we all live the same way in the sense that we work, we have families, we have friends, we have found some important elements in the city that tend to represent us. For me, is street art, but some others it might be architecture, for others it might be gastronomy, for others it might be even the people or the soccer, the sports fanaticism that you can find here in the city, like for football, for soccer, for baseball. So there are many elements that make the city and many elements that can represent the person, but it is just really up to everyone to choose one element to really bond with.